In this part, we are going to talk about the things about federalism which are practiced in our India, means by which we will say that India is a federal country. So, which those things are there? Let's try to understand. How is federalism practiced in India? First, on the basis of linguistic states. What exactly it is before starting this? Again, I have to remind you one history. As you know very well, in 1947 we got independence. After independence, India was divided into small constituent units, isn't it? You know it very well. Some people say it is 562, some people say it is 565. So, these states, they were princely states and they were thinking that they are sovereign, means they themselves are like a country. So, it was very important at that time to reorganize them, to bring under one umbrella. So Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel quickly after independence, he asked all the states, he sent letters to all the states and asked them to sign upon it that they are ready to enter into sovereign India as a whole. So he requested them, they all signed in that and they came into India. But there were three states, princely states, huh? They were not ready to come into the India. They thought we will form our own country. So those three states were Hyderabad, you know Hyderabad, Andhra Pradesh, that is then Junagadh, Gujarat, and Jammu and Kashmir. So how Jammu and Kashmir came in India, that story I told you last time. Okay. So and Junagadh and Hyderabad also came afterwards. Okay, means we had to fight with them. Then they came into India. But afterwards, when all these states were together, then India was a whole. There were no states, there were no union territories. But for the administration in 1951, 29 administrative divisions were made. So here you can see the map of India in which 1951 there are 29 administrative divisions. Means for administrative purpose only it was formed, but everywhere in these 29 administrative units divisions, laws formulated by the central government would be followed. There were no states, they didn't have any their assembly. Okay, means they just have to follow the rules and regulations made by central government. Then in 1956 picture changes. In 1956 government thought that if we want to live together, then we have to, means the central government had to give some power to the states. Only then they will think that we are the part of India. Otherwise, in future, there can be the question of self identity. If our identity is not maintained, why should we live in India? Then there will be revolt. Again, we had to crush that. So to avoid that, central government thought we should divide the power, we should share the power. So as per that, in 1956 State Reorganization Act takes effect, and according to that 14 states and 6 union territories were formed on linguistic lines, means the language that they speak, upon that the states will be formed. So let me give you example of Maharashtra. In 1966, Maharashtra state was formed. Earlier, Mumbai was the state. So in 1966, government divided Mumbai and formed two states. Gujarati language speaking people in Gujarat state and Marathi speaking people in Maharashtra. So in this way, on the basis of language, we form two states, Maharashtra and Gujarat. So same happened with this, means on linguistic lines we form government form 14 states and 6 union territories. Clear? Afterwards, in 19 means before that 1954 all French regions became part of India. As you know, French were the last by which we got the means our state was released. Goa was the last state which got the independence from the French. So they also came in India, but afterwards other state means other than these 14 states, they thought this state got independence. What about us? Independence means they got the power. What about us? So again, throughout the India, there was demand of special state, the demand of separate state from India. Means not as a country, as a state. I am saying, okay. Please understand my word exactly. Separate state, special state means the power sharing must be there. Okay. So in this way, you can see here in 1972, Arunachal Pradesh was formed as a union territory from Assam, and afterwards in 1987 it became state. And afterwards again there was demand was growing for the formation of the states. So the seven sisters, seven states, you can see the deadline dates: Nagaland 1963, Mizoram 1987, Meghalaya 1972. So in this way, on the basis of language, states were formed. And now you know, today we have 29 states. So all they are formed on the basis of language, so that power should be shared. So one example is given here, how on linguistic lines. Let's take example of Punjab. In 1966, Punjab split into a smaller Punjab state, a new Haryana and Punjab. But Chandigarh was capital earlier, isn't it, of Punjab. So who will take Chandigarh, Punjab or Haryana? Whose capital it will be? Because already Chandigarh has its own assembly, isn't it? So, and it is already developed. So, which state will take that? So, there will be a fight for that. So, to avoid that, government said neither Punjab nor Haryana. It will be considered as a union territory. So, both of you, you have to form your own assembly and you have to develop your cities and you have to make your own capitals. So, what is the capital of Punjab and what is the capital of Haryana? Just tell me afterwards. Okay. Next. So just recent example, you know very well. This example of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Two states are formed, and there was a conflict again on Hyderabad. Okay, so it was said that for next 10 years, Hyderabad will be the capital of Telangana also and Andhra Pradesh also. Afterwards, they have to develop their own. So in this way, on the linguistic line, states were reorganized. That is the first thing by which we practice federalism in our India. Next, language policy. To understand this language policy, we must understand or we must keep the picture of Sri Lanka in front of us. Then you will understand it very easily. Okay? When Sri Lanka got independence, after that, they made Sinhala as their national language, official language. National language means what? The people, those who are speaking Sinhala language, only they will get government jobs. Only Sinhala speaking people, they will get government facilities. So, and only they can give government means they will be given government jobs. So in this way, maximum means almost 75% people in Sri Lanka, they were speaking Sinhala language. They were in majority. But there were other people, Muslim, Buddhist, then Tamils. What about them? Isn't it? So, because of this policy, other languages were underestimated, and because of this language policy, Sri Lanka had to suffer a civil war in which even Prime Minister was also killed. So, to avoid that, we had drawn a very nice language policy according to which no language has got the status of national language, even Hindi also. Hindi is not our national language. Definitely, for our convenience, we use it as a medium, but it's not our national language. Central government can't impose Hindi on non-Hindi speaking states. It's not compulsory for them to learn Hindi. So you can see in South India, many people they can't speak in Hindi. Either they can speak their mother tongue, Telugu, Tamil, or they can speak English language. It's not compulsory for them that they have to learn Hindi language. So the central government can't impose it. Then 22 languages, they have got the status of official languages. Means 22 languages we have taken as a representation, because all languages we can't take all languages. Means what is the meaning of these scheduled languages? Let me tell you. If any central government exam is there, means UPSC, any central government exam is there, then they have to conduct the exam in all these 22 languages. As they have got the application from the candidates and the languages are chosen by the candidates, as per that they have to print the question paper in different 22 languages. Clear? So if I want to give UPSC exam, or if you want to give a UPSC exam in Marathi language or Gujarati language, you can give it. Of course, if the question paper is of English, you have to give it in English only. But if the question paper is of any other subject, then you can give it in Marathi also. So that provision central government has made under language policy. Then center agrees to use English along with Hindi. By this flexibility is shown. Because what happens, just imagine, if South Indian people, they are speaking in our parliament and they are speaking in Tamil language or Telugu language, other leaders will not understand it, isn't it? So to facilitate, to make the things easier, the work of parliament is done in two languages, Hindi or English. But please keep this in mind, Hindi cannot be imposed, it's not our national language. For our convenience, we speak in Hindi. Okay, chalo fine. Next, center state relations. What it is, let's see. As I told you, in 1956, States Reorganization Act was there, according to which 14 states were formed, isn't it? Afterwards, states were being organized. They were asking for the status of state. So in 1960, Maharashtra was made. But only the formation of the state is not enough. They should get enough power also, isn't it? So earlier, before 1990, these states, you can see the picture here, then you will understand. The first picture, the states split for more powers. These states, they used to come to the central government and they ask for more and more power, more taxation system, for more development. They wanted funds from the central government, isn't it? So they used to come to the central government. You can see in the picture, it seems to be Indira Gandhi, isn't it? So they came to central government and they were asking, not asking actually, literally they are begging for the powers. Okay, so these states came to the central government and begging for the powers. That was the condition of states before 1990. So only formation of the state is not enough. We have to give them power also. So after understanding this, after 1990 there was a revolution. Means this revolution was not of cutting kind of cutting heads. Huh? This revolution was intellectual revolution. The people from different states, they realized one thing, that central government is not going to think about our state, so we have to take the care of our state. So what to do? So to elect any other political party far from our state, which is not from our state, instead of doing that, we will start our own political parties, regional political parties, state parties, and we will elect them, and we will form, means chief minister will be elected from the state party itself. To take care of that, they started forming their own political parties, regional political parties. And still, then national political party is there. If that political party wants to form the government there, then they have to do alliance or the coalition with these regional parties. Only it was possible for them to form government there. So after 1990, picture completely changes. Okay, and that was the age of coalition government. Now I hope you know very well what is the coalition. Still, if anybody doesn't know, you can ask me. Then perils of running coalition government, you can see the picture again. I think he is Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Yes, from by yes, of course he's Atal Bihari Vajpayee. There is a lotus in his hands, so you can see he's sitting on the crackers. and on those crackers different faces, different political symbols are there, and they are from different political parties. So combining, bringing them all together, BJP started coalition government, but it was peril. They were sitting on the crackers and they can burst anytime. These political leaders, they can take out the support anytime and it will collapse. And it had happened in 1998. Get more details about it. I have told it this already. So in this way, this was the disadvantage of coalition government. Chalo, fine. And the last but not least, that is decentralization in India, Panchayati Raj. This we are not going to discuss in this lecture, okay? Because this is the most important point. So this we will take in our next lecture. But to begin with this, first of all, I want you to search something for this Panchayati Raj, then you will understand more. So I have few questions for you. Please note it down while listening my lecture and find it out. You can discuss with your friends, you can talk to your parents, you can take the help of Google Baba, YouTube Baba, okay? Or you can talk to any political leader if you know him very well, or any government executive, okay? So the first question is, which sources are there for gram panchayat to collect taxes? First thing. Second, if if gram panchayat wants to do some development in their village, where do they get tax, means where do they get money from, isn't it? Then third, how the decisions of villages are made and who makes it. Then how the elections are conducted. Then how sarpanch is elected. What is the role of gram sevak? Then who is talati? Okay. Then who is tahsildar? Because this is related to from Panchayati Raj. Okay. And if this is about village, what about the cities? In cities, which kind of elections are there? As in village, there is a sarpanch. Then in cities, who is the chief elected person? And as in Maharashtra, as in villages, there is a gram panchayat. What for cities? What for urban areas? Just find out all these things and you will understand it very well next time. So till then, thank you so much. Have a nice day.